I lived in a haunted apartment for 3 years. I would like to state I'm a skeptic and I tried everything to find out what could be reasonable explanations for what was going on. One of the most frightening things that happened to me was one evening in my apartment, where I lived alone. I had no animals, and I had just gotten into bed and reached to turn off the light. Before I even completely laid down, next to my bed was a heavy thump about shoulder level. And then something slid along the carpet and stopped about at the foot of the bed. I laid there for a good 10 minutes, hyperventilating, terrified, unable to figure out what the hell that was. The only thing I could think that might sound like that was a heavy black floor pillow that was in my living room. Finally, I reached over and turned on the light and looked, and nothing was there. I finally got the nerve to get up, turning on lights as I went and walked into the living room. There was the pillow right where it was supposed to be. I spent the next hour dropping that pillow next to my bed and pulling it along the carpet, and hearing the exact same sound I had heard when I first laid down. I was not asleep, I had not even completely laid down. I don't hallucinate, and to this day I can't explain what that was. If it was an hallucination, for the first time in my life, it was an odd one. Other things were happening in the apartment, including my waking up with scratches, bruises, hearing whispers, having things move in front of me, tapping noises underneath my bed that would respond to my voice and EVPs. More than one of these instances were witnessed by other people. You would think that some of the really crazy stuff would have been what scared me the most, but for some reason, that clear thump and sliding sound right next to my bed, like it was just waiting for me to turn off the light to scare me, that freaked me out the most. Sometimes it's the simplest things that are the most unnerving.
My grandfather once had a very strange experience. This happened in the 1960s in rural India. My grandparents lived in a small village in a house made of mud and bricks. Across their front door was another house which remained closed all the time. A reclusive widow lived in this house who seldom interacted with anyone else in the village. This woman had a problem, a serious one. She was susceptible to possession. In India, there's this belief that a person born under a certain astrological sign is more prone to supernatural interactions. This poor woman was one of them. Every night, this woman would get possessed, and unearthly screams could be heard from behind her closed doors. Nobody knew what happened inside. One night, the screams became too horrifying. Dual voices could be heard, along with gurgling sounds and high-pitched shrieks. The villagers mustered their courage and decided to check. They lit up their fire torches as there was no electricity back then, and they all gathered at her door. The screams grew more and more tormented at this stage. The strongest of the lot kicked down the door with a few tries, but as soon as the door opened, the screams stopped. Needless to say, everyone was super creeped at this point. This particular night, it was my grandfather's turn to lead the mob. He slowly inched his way inside, holding his torch up high. The flames of the torch illuminated only enough space for my grandfather to take one small step at a time. As he inched forward, he heard a sickening sound. A crunching, slurping, gurgling sound. They all froze. My grandfather slowly moved the torch in the direction of the sound, and there she was, sitting in a corner, wearing bloodied clothes, hair disheveled. An overpowering stench overcame all of them. She was sitting in a pile of filth. She was biting and tearing the flesh off a young hen which had had the misfortune of straying into her house. Blood and guts spilled from her mouth as she gnawed on the raw carcass of the poor bird. She then suddenly stopped and slowly made eye contact with my grandfather. The whites of her eyes were a feverish yellow, and her lens were ash-gray in color. My grandfather remembers those eyes to this day. Then, before he could react, she lunged at him with unnatural speed and bit him straight on his thigh. My grandfather woke up with a scream, sweating and panting. Yes, this was a nightmare, but it wasn't just any nightmare. As my grandfather reached for the jug of water he always kept by his bedside, he felt a sting in his thigh. He grabbed an oil lamp and held it over his thigh, and lo and behold, the bite mark was there, distinct and green. Needless to say, this freaked out everyone in the village. The villagers performed holy rituals to keep the negative energy at bay. And they just sort of learned to live with the haunted house amidst them. The villagers never ventured out after sunset or anywhere close to the house, even during the day. Eventually, with time the screams died, and so did the woman. The authorities removed the widow's self-mutilated body from the house. The house was demolished and burnt. Traditional rituals were performed to calm the spirits. My grandfather still shudders when he thinks of that woman, especially her eyes.
Hi. I want to share my recent personal experiences. Me and my wife are working in an IT company. We were recently married and had moved into a rented house. The house is nice, big and spacious, with 3 bedrooms with only 2 of us as occupants. It is built in a very nice and green society in Karadi area of Pune. Incident 1. One weekend we were enjoying a movie on TV. Suddenly the voltage dipped and our television switched off. The lights went dim and fan went dead slow. At almost the same time, we heard some thunder from outside, so we understood some problem might have cropped up due to rainy weather. After a while, the electricity switched back to normal, but only for a while before going back to extremely low voltage. This time, as the voltage dipped, we heard some noise from our kitchen. We have a big steel pot matka utensil to fill and store water, resembling earthen pot in shape, and a small one of the same shape, kept on the floor, upside down as they were not in use currently. The noise we both heard sounded like one of the steel pots wobbled violently and settled. We thought the noise came from some other flat. Then we got back to chatting till voltage normalized. But soon voltage started jumping from normal to low to very low. I went outside on our terrace to get some air and noticed that other flats, from my building and other buildings as well, did not seem to have the voltage problem. So I went inside and joked about how unlucky we were that eve to my wife. Almost at the same time we heard the wobbling noise from the kitchen again. This time we were alerted and I went inside the kitchen to check if a mouse somehow got trapped inside the steel pot and was trying to get out. I lifted both the pots, but there was nothing. We looked at each other and again joked that maybe we have a ghost with us. As we were heading back to the hall, the wobbling noise happened again. We both rushed back in the kitchen and stood there puzzled, as we could not figure out what was causing the pots to wobble. We reconsidered if the noise came from our kitchen or outside, but both felt that it was from out kitchen. Incident 2. This is more like a constant feeling of being watched. There is a small passage connecting our bedroom to main hall. I have at times felt that I was being stared at by someone from the hall while we were in bedroom. The moment I try to see through the passage into the hall, the feeling stops. But I always dismissed it on the account of me being a kind of daydreamer kind of person. Incident 3. According to me, the above 2 incidents could have happened for a lot of practical and psychological reasons, and might not be considered as a supernatural incident. But something happened this week which creeped me out big time. I had a weird dream. In my dream, I woke up on my bed and opened my eyes while lying. I could see in the ambient light coming from the society lights that my wife was up. She was standing in front of the mirror and just staring. She seemed to be wearing some very dark-colored nightgown. She had let her hair down, and her hair seemed strangely puffed up. I called her name asking, "What are you doing?" She seemed to have ignored my call. After a few seconds she silently turned and climbed back on the bed. She came next to me and sat facing me, not saying anything. I kept asking her, "What are you doing? Why are you up so late?" After some time, she told me that I should go back to sleep. I went to sleep that very instant. Then I woke up again. This time I saw my wife roaming in the house, not doing anything, just roaming from here to there. Then I slept again. Third time I opened my eyes, I saw my wife floating above me, staring at me and smiling. Her hair somehow not falling down due to gravity. This was it. I was creeped out enough to actually wake up from my real sleep. After waking up, I saw my wife sleeping next to me as usual. I realized it was a scary dream. I drank some water and went back to sleep. A thought in my mind told me that it will be fun next morning when I tell her that I had a nightmare starring her. In morning, we got up and sat on our bed talking to each other. The nightmare I had last night was now tickling me from inside, because I wanted to tell my wife that she scared me in my dream. Then what happened was beyond scary for me. She started laughing and told she had a scary dream last night in which she saw me standing next to the mirror, roaming aimlessly in the house and floating above her. I did not know how to react. I have not told her that I had a similar nightmare as well. I thought it's better to have one scared person than two, living in a large spacious house with 2 bedrooms always unoccupied.
I don't want to be branded insane and hence had to go anonymous. I'm not a superstitious guy. In fact, I'm very much a tech guy, having done my engineering from one of the top colleges in India. Before judging, please realize that just because you haven't seen or experienced something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Doesn't work that way. My experience goes as follows. My parents, me, and my sister, all of us used to sleep in the same single bedroom. I've always been a studious guy. During my childhood, me and my elder sister had this habit of waking up early for studying, usually around 3 to 4 a.m. It used to be completely silent at that time of the night, and while we were engrossed in studies, suddenly out of nowhere we'd hear clear anklet sounds. It used to last for 1 to 2 minutes. The sounds used to be crystal clear and were of the type made by dancers' anklets. Also, we used to live on the first floor, and there was no balcony or something outside the window for anyone to even walk. We were scared and told our dad, but he dismissed it, saying it must be some random sound which we are unnecessarily getting worried about. This continued for a couple of years. We moved to a new house in the same street, and the thing continued even there. The sounds were loud and clearly audible. I tried to show courage on a few occasions and peep out of the window, but my sister would stop me every time. We kind of got used to it by then. The next year, we moved to a new house, some 10 to 15 kilometers from this house. My sister moved to a new city for college. And now I'm all alone. I've developed this new habit of staying up late into the night, usually till 2 to 3 a.m. in the morning. The sounds continued even in the new place. I was scared since I'm alone. Of course, Mom and Dad were there in the same room, but they used to be deep asleep. I wanted to find out more. On a couple of occasions, I tried to stick a torch out of the window and see if something's visible. On one occasion, I even unlatched the back door to step out. But I was so scared and immediately dropped the idea. This was a puzzle which I desperately needed an answer for. My dad just wouldn't believe it, saying these kind of things are just our imagination and nothing of this sort exists. So, life just went on, with me having these scary and exciting moments on a regular basis. One day, I heard the sound from inside the house from the hall. Bedroom door stays locked from inside during the night, and no one else resided in the house apart from us. I was so scared, cause all this time, I've been hearing it from outside the house. This continued for a few days. I was scared to even get water from the refrigerator in the dining area adjacent to the hall during night time. And then one day, at around 2 a.m., I could hear the sound again. Only this time, it kept getting louder and louder as if it's approaching the bedroom. I was scared, waiting to see what's gonna happen next. The sound grew louder, and I could now hear it from inside the room. It was moving closer to where my dad was sleeping. And then, I heard the sound just beside my dad, and then everything went silent. It stayed like that for a few seconds. I was so scared by now, and was waiting if that's the end of the story for tonight, or something's gonna happen next. Just when I thought it'd be better if I wake these people up, all of a sudden, it ran towards the door, and out in a flash. It happened so fast, and there was even a shake in the door, like when a sudden gust of wind blows against it. I had goosebumps. I was scared. Even my dad woke up with this. And that was the first time he believed what I've been telling him all along. This is the most scariest it got, with me being a couple of feet away from it, and I could sense its presence there standing. Later that year, I moved to a different city for my college, and that was the end. Till today, me nor my sister can explain this weird stuff that had happened. It was only the anklet sound, nothing was visible. Just the anklet sound, moving around the place, and you could feel where it was.
This story is from my mother. My mother is from agriculture background and her village is near Thiruvannamalai district in Tamil Nadu. In her childhood days, she always used to work in an agriculture field every day in the morning. This was her daily routine, working in agriculture field and come back home only to have lunch. On that point of time, every 2 acres or more land were having a separate well, which is very big and very deep, and on the side of the well, there was one small tank where people can wash clothes and drink water. One day my mother and her friends went for a work in neighbor's agricultural field. While working, my mom felt thirsty. She decided to go to the nearby well alone. Between well and her working field, there was sugarcane cultivated area was covered and she walked alone through the sugarcane area and reached the well. And she started drinking water from nearby tank, and in the meanwhile, she heard sound of a small girl from nearby area like Yarvathu Vangalan non Thania Irukan Yarvathu and Avanthu Kapathangalan, which translates to anyone there. I am alone here, please. Come and help me. And my mother heard this sound and same words were repeated again and again. She finally found that sound was coming from the well. So she decided to see in the well. She saw a small girl in a white dress sitting in the corner of steps in the well, facing the water and saying Yarvathu Vangalan Vantha Kapathangalan. My mom was all alone, so got shocked and scared to see such a small girl in the well sitting alone and crying. She never knew that girl was a ghost, because my mother herself was a small girl at that time. My mom shouted Oyaru Athu, which translate to who is there. Then that small girl slowly turned her head above and saw my mom. Her eyes were so red and wind started blowing like a storm near well area. Child ghost was saying, come here, come and help me. That's it. My mother started running from the well and got home as quickly as possible. Next day she got a heavy fever because of fear. When she told this matter to villagers, finally found that one small girl from neighbor village, who came to drink the water from the tank of the same well, and had fallen into the well by accident. From that moment, she started believing ghost. Whenever she tells this story to me, it scares me more, even though I heard many ghost stories from many people.
Well, this happened with me last year. I run. Long-distance running requires practice runs, which one normally does in early mornings. In summertime India, to avoid the heat, many a times, I started around 4 a.m. so that the run gets complete by 6 a.m. After sunrise, it becomes tough. This May was unusually hot, so normally I would start my day at around 3:45, be on the road by 4, and 2-hour run. After children's schools were closed for summer vacation, we went to Udaipur. Another family was with us, and the guy, Sandip, he too runs. I was happy that Sandip was with me, so that I won't miss the runs, even at a new place. When we reached Udaipur, checked into a hotel, a decent heritage hotel, one of the old palaces of medieval Maharajas, which was later turned into a hotel. The hotel was located on a hillock. We all had fun during the day. In evening, I told Sandip about my plans to go for the early morning run. Sandip was freaked. He said, "Are you nuts, man? 4 a.m. in a new town? No." After I insisted a lot, he agreed reluctantly. I asked him to sleep early so that he can get up easily. We had a pact, the first guy to get up will wake the other one. I went to bed at around 10 p.m. Wife and kids had slept earlier. My sleep was disturbed. Must be for strange new place, I reckoned. It felt as if I was dreaming. A fleeting kind of feeling, where one is half awake and half asleep. As if I heard a knock on the door. I got up and looked at my watch. I lit up the dial to 10 a.m. Everybody else was sleeping. I thought it must be Sandip who has gotten up and knocked the door. It must near 4 a.m. My watch must have stopped. As I opened, I saw a shadow walking away from the door. My eyes were half open. I could hardly see. I thought it was Sandip who was going back to his own room after knocking on my door. It felt cold for a hot Udaipur summer night. I got ready for the run. Still my sleep was not completely gone. I wondered 10 p.m. to 3:30 a.m. The 5:30 hours sleep should be enough for me on a normal night. Why not tonight? I stepped out of the hotel. Was looking for Sandip. I thought he must have started the warming up. As I stepped outside the hotel gate, the guard gave me a surprised look. He said, "Go in alone for a night walk, sir." I nodded. Alone, but Sandip has gone out of the hotel premises through that gate only. That guard must be dozing off hard on duty and must have missed Sandip. And who calls for AM as night? Lazy guy. The hotel was situated on a small hill. So, the initial 500 meters was a descent. Where is Sandip? I wondered, but as I slowly started to get down the hill, I could the shadow moving ahead. Ah, Sandip, now this guy has become faster with more training. I increased my pace and reached near him. We had reached the lakeside road of Udaipur. I asked him, "All good, mate? How could you get up so early?" He just gave a groan. It was like 5 km or so, and Sandip's running speed was so high that I could hardly keep pace. I was behind him all the time. I shouted, "Buddy, slow down, your pace is killing me. I can't match up, slow down, Sandip." He again gave a grunt. I guess Sandip was saving his breath and was not talking. I was running behind him. The lakeside road was quite zigzag, full course was about 20 km. We were almost 12 kilometers done. I was completely out of breath. No way I could match Sandip that morning. I was wondering why dawn was not breaking. If we had started at 4, now it ought to be 5-ish. At least the horizon should lit a bit up. But there was complete darkness. What time is it? I looked up again at my watch. Put the dial light on. To 10 a.m. Shit, the watch has stopped, but it's a Garmin GPS watch. It's showing speed and distance etc. fine. Why is the time wrong or anyway? Sandip was racing away. There was a sharp turn ahead. A large pipal tree was branching off on the road, across towards the lakeside. The road was dark, but it was darker near the tree. And colder too. I could not go on. "Hey Sandip, buddy, slow down. How many times shall I ask you to? I can't go on, I am stopping here, you go." Sandip gave an annoyed angry growl. And he turned back. For the first time I got to see his face in the dim glow of roadside neon lamp. It was horrible, there was no Sandip, it was an apparition, formless, yet I could see it. A white pale face, looked like that of a man of early 30s. Half of his head was hanging off, as if torn away by a blow. The shadow slowly moved towards me. My heart stopped beating. I ran. How much did I run? When did I reach the hotel? I don't remember. All I remembered was the cold out there. When I got back to senses, I looked around. It was all dark. I switched on the dial light of my watch. Faint light illuminated the room. Everyone was sleeping. Looked at the watch. To 10 a.m. What in the earth did happen? Was it a nightmare or still then my heart was beating like a drum? What a surreal nightmare. Tried to catch some sleep. In the morning wife and kids, all went to down for breakfast. The guard gave me a familiar nod. As if he knew me earlier. I faintly remembered him, but could not say where had I seen him. Saw Sandip in the restaurant. "Morning mate," he said. "Sorry, I could not get up in morning for the run. But just saw your Garmin update of last night. 20 km. And that too at to 10 a.m. Are you a freak, man?" I looked at my Garmin watch. It did show 20 kilometers, run completed at to 10 a.m. On just then my eyes fell on one of the portraits hanging on the wall of the hotel. Remember, it is a heritage hotel belonging to Maharajas of yore. I could recognize the face. It was same as that of the knight. The mention below the portrait read, "Late Kunwar Ejai Pratap Singh, circa 1646 to 1680, martyred from sword blow to the head while fighting the mules." I froze there. I don't recall what happened after that. But after that, I never go out for running before sunrise. I have posted this story a couple of times on Quora, but this is not a story. It's a true incident which had happened with me and my friends. It happened 8 years ago when we went to Delhi's most haunted place, Delhi Cant. Delhi Cantonment, a well-known place in the capital of India, is haunted. It is said that most of the time, a revengeful spirit of the lady clad in pure white sari asks for a lift. If people don't stop their vehicle, she starts running with the same speed and reaching after them. If you stop the vehicle, you are vanished. This is what locals say. More than 1,000 people have seen that lady. Some people say she often tries to make them nervous and horrified. Even she knocks the door if the cars raise its speed too. And some local people say the lady doesn't harm anyone, but she looks for something on the road. With these strange incidences, that area becomes one of the scariest places in Delhi. In order to know the truth, Danish, a friend, Cabby, our elder brother, and Shobhit cousin went to Delhi Cantonment. We carried some baseball bats with us, not because of that lady, but yes, to protect ourselves against thugs and goons who could loot us, because the area is full of green lush trees and dense forests. We were very excited, but Danish was scared and didn't want to go there, but finally we convinced him. We had heard of all of the stories of the lady clad in white sari, and we wanted to see if they were true. Guys, truly speaking, we didn't find any lady in the woods, but what we found was horrible. A little while past midnight, we get down from the car and stepped into the woods in searching for the vengeful lady. It was about 2 in the morning. We were exited except Danish. He was feeling uncomfortable and wanted to leave the place. He looks at me and says, "Your wapashailed high kutch ajib salag our ha dude. Let's go. I am feeling something bad." We said, "Okay, you go back to the car. We will be back soon." Then he left the woods and waiting for us. After walked 1 or 2 miles in the woods, we heard groans of something. We thought maybe it was a dog or cat. Suddenly Shobhit saw someone jumping from tree to tree. He screamed, said, "I saw something there. Please leave this place right now." We couldn't ignore him at this point of time, because he is the guy who loves to visit haunted places or enjoys real ghost stories. I and Kabir decided to go back to the car where Danish was waiting for us. We were on the way. Suddenly we heard laughter in the woods. Now this was the time when we all were scared as heck. We started running, then I stumbled on some bones, maybe belongs to an animal. I started freaking out some more, thinking paranoid thoughts about how we might die in the forest. We ran around desperately. I started to see things. No straight up ghostly apparitions, but a few times I could have sworn I saw somebody standing next to a tree, but when I looked back, there was nothing. Finally, we reached to the place where we parked our car. We get in the car, but wait, where is Danish? Where is he? We started calling to Danish, but his number was not reachable. Maybe a network issue, trying to convince myself that everything is fine. Kabir, my networks is fine. Shobhit, mine too. We all were in the car and thinking about Danish and those things which just occurred with us. We were scared. I could see fear on their faces, especially on Shobhit's face. After all, he saw someone jumping from tree to tree. We locked our car and waiting for Danish. Were we scared of thugs or goons? Or it was the fear of that lady? But our first priority was to find Danish. After 10 or 15 minutes, we saw a figure coming out from the woods, and it was coming to us. We couldn't see properly because of the darkness. We hold our baseball bats very tightly and ready to attack. "Hey, it's me." It was Danish. "Sid, where were you? We have been trying to call you for last 15 minutes, but the number was not reachable." Danish, with smiling face, went to pee. "Sid, come on, get in the car. We have to go now." Danish sat in the car with the same expression, smiling face. Kabir, while driving. "Why is he smiling?" Shobhit, "I don't know." "Sid, why are you smiling? Did you know what happened to us? We heard mysterious noises in the woods. Are you listening or not?" Danish remains quiet and smiling and continuously looking into the woods. After some time, we reached on the main road where we could see other vehicles. We felt comfortable now, but Danish was still giving the same expression and looking out of the window. It was about 4 or 4:30 in the morning. We decided to go to the Shishganj Gurudwara to have Koil Kol Wali Chai tea. Suddenly Danish shouted, "No, I won't go there. Stop the car and let me go." Guys, this was the first time that he refused to go Shishganj Gurudwara. He often used to go there to have Koila tea, but he refused this time and asked to leave him alone. Shobhit, what happened to him? He was not like that. Kabir, he must be tired. Sid, I think so. Okay, we are not going there. We are going to home. Again Danish gave us the same smile and looking out of the window. God knows what he was looking at. Finally we dropped Danish at his home. After we reached our home, Kabir and Shobhit was discussing about the things that happened to us. Shobhit, what was that thing who was jumping from one tree to another tree? Kabir in funny voice, maybe that was a witch. Sid, shut up, that could been a monkey, but truly speaking, I was scared when I heard laughter in the woods. Shobhit, true, I was also scared. Kabir, are you still thinking about that lady? And please don't say that you guys believe on those stories. I was scared because I was scared of robbers. At 5:30 a.m. my friends went to sleep. I didn't sleep. I was thinking about Danish and what happened to him. Why was he smiling? Why was he looking outside? To whom he was looking at? Why he refused to go to the Gurudwara? All those things were bothering me. Somehow I fell asleep, the same day at 11:30 a.m. I got a call from Danish's sister, who were literally crying. She asked me to come her place. I rushed to her house. I asked her what happened. She said something happened to Danish. He is behaving like a girl. He wore my suit and used my mother lipstick on her lips. I asked her what Danish is doing right now. She said he is sleeping now, but when he came to home he took my suits from my room. I was praying at that time, but I was surprised when I saw him. So I went to his room and checked what he is doing. I asked her what you have seen. She told me that Danish wore my suit kurti and pajama and was dancing like a girl. I shouted at him, so he started laughing and shut the door. I was trying to understand what's going on, then I heard someone was crying and the sound was coming from Danish room, but that was not Danish. I was scared and ran downstairs and woke up my mom and dad when we knocked his door. He didn't respond, so we broke the door. He was lying on the floor. We entered his room where we saw a painting on his wall. Let me tell you guys, he is a good painter. I asked her to take me to his room. As I entered Danish's room, everything was messed up. But what I found there was horrible. He drew a painting on his wall which shows a car with the speed of 50 kilometers per hour. 50 kilometers per hour was the only number which he has wrote in the picture. And I remember last night when Kabir was driving with the same speed. That was the average speed, 50 kilometers per hour. Secondly, he drew a lady who's running swiftly with the same speed. That means Danish was the only guy who saw that lady. Was that spirit chasing us last night? Or just she was chasing Danish? That means when we found Danish last night and asked him to get in the car, and he was contentiously looking outside into the woods, that means he was looking at the lady who was running with the same speed of our car, but only Danish could see her. I remember, while running last night, I saw somebody standing next to a tree, but when I looked back there was nothing. What was that? Was that Danish? After own week, Kabir also told us that he had dream about the lady who was chasing us that night. Danish took 6 months to become normal. All these things show there is something in the woods. Or the story we had heard was true. Spirits have their own world. They also want peace like human. But when someone enters to their world, they started haunting them, as we did. I never actually believed in ghosts, maybe because I have never had any experience. But this incident has changed my whole perspective of the paranormal.
In December 2016, we had decided to go Chitrakoot. That trip was an unexpected one without informing our parents. Finally, we reached there via passenger train from Kanpur. Me, Adil and Rahul were enjoying a lot there. First we went to Mandakini River, we took a bath there, then we went to Gupt Godavari, Hanumandara, and in the evening we participated in Aarti on Ramghat. We were returning back to Kanpur, so fain we reached Chitrakoot station and our train was supposed to arrive at 2:30 am. Time was something PM and we saw only a few people were present there, might be because of fog and low temperature. We sat there and started discussing about our expenses. But suddenly my mother called me. Mom, where are you? Me, hostel. Mom, Hadiner? Me, yeah, I had. But background sound changed that game. Background sound, train no 67936 Jabalpur to Chitrakoot is coming on platform number 2. Mom. Satyam. Where are you? Me. Chitrakoot. And I told her everything about our trip, and she lost her cool and she was so angry. Mom. Just come back first, then I will see you. And I cut the call. Again we started discussing about all expenses and Rahul and Adil started opposing me and I lost my cool. Me. Enough, I'm going now. Adil. Daria, it's too cold and your phone is off. I'm sorry, just sit here, brother. Me. Don't call me brother, you idiot. Adil. Okay, just. I went away from them and I was sitting on a desk, platform number 3. Nobody was there except for a thick fog. Actually, I love being in solitude. I was completely lost in my past, and I started remembering good and bad moments of my life. Suddenly, I felt a hot touch on my hand. I saw an old lady sitting beside me. She beta. When will Jabalpur Chitrakoot train come? Me. The train have already arrived. She. Oh, me. Just go inside station and just stay there. She. Can you please drop me there? She pointed out at a building situated at the opposite side of station. I was unsure about my decision because of the fog and darkness. Me. Why? Just go and stay there inside the waiting room. She. No. That is my place. I will stay there, please, help me. Me. Okay, let's go. Suddenly, she started whispering some types of mantra. I felt nervous. I felt something is wrong. But that was a holy place, so I decided to help her. After 2 minutes, I heard a noise from the backside. Adil. Daria. Bastawale kahamar nya rahai. Translation. Daria, my dear friend, where are you going to die? After hearing his voice, it hit me so hard, and I felt I saw some kind of dream, and his voice broke that dream. I was stunned. Nothing was there except broken iron track and trees. Even there was no lady there. I told him whole incident. I was sweating at that moment. I saw it was a M, and after 1 hour the train arrived and finally we returned back to Kanpur. After returning back to Kanpur, I saw the same incident in my dream. My grandmother told me she was Sitama, and why didn't you touch her feet at that moment? Inner me. Marigan fat ke hath main triple geethi. Opko pyron ki pati h. Translation. Actually, I was enjoying that moment. So, I forgot about it. Sister. Maybe she was Serpnaka. Me. What a family.
So these incidents happened in a matter of 1 week. I could never recover from the trauma and still suffer from sleep paralysis, and I am too scared to sleep alone. We had moved to this rental apartment when I was 15. Our wall clock, refrigerator, TV would just stop working randomly even during the day. We thought that there was some problem with the wiring, called the electrician. He could not fix it. This one time my mom had left soup on the stove and was busy in another room. I came out of the shower to see fire coming out of the gas regulator, which is unusual. Luckily, I was able to switch of the gas cylinder regulator. Next day, our ceiling fan just fell off. None of us were in the same room, but we sensed something was wrong. But we're too scared to discuss about it. Same day, I was just up reading after dinner. I got up to switch off the lights and turned back to see just shadow of a man in the dark. I was dumbstruck. I somehow ran through the shadow. I was so scared that I fell sick after that. I had fever and I would faint even if I stood up from my bed. The doctors could not tell what was wrong. We moved from that apartment and I got better eventually. I don't know if that was a ghost or it was all in my head. But I still have trouble sleeping because of the trauma. I am a 22-year-old guy from Pune, Maharashtra. The incident occurred when I was awaiting my 9th grade results and preparing for 10th grade. My parents had enrolled me in a vacation coaching institute with accommodation, which was right in the city center. Being in the heart of Pune city, the accommodation was in an old building, also known as Wada in Marathi. As obvious it was, There were two separate buildings for girls and guys. About the infrastructure of the building. It was an old puneri wada with a ground floor with two more floors above. There was an open space in the center which could be seen from all the flowers. Each floor had a set of wash and bathrooms. The ground floor had two rooms combined to make it a dining room. Small area behind the room for wash basins and utensil washing area. So, when one was done with their meal, he had to pass through the wash basin, utensil washing area or washrooms finally in the center of the wada. The incident, the first 15 days were very normal like any other hostel, and I enjoyed a lot. One night, I woke up around 3 a.m. to use the washroom. This was quite usual. The washroom on my floor was right next to my room, so it wasn't a great deal reaching there. To my surprise, it was unusable due to a sewage line issue. Without thinking much, I started walking downstairs to use the washroom next to the dining room. As I approached the washroom door, I saw an old lady washing utensils in the washing area behind the dining room. It was strange as I had never seen anybody working at 3 a.m., but didn't care as I was sleepy and wanted to pee badly. I came out of the washroom and started walking to my floor. I realized the old lady was still in the same pose and the pace of sound of scrubbing the utensil was constant. That was the time I started thinking about the facts. Being a boys' hostel, no female was allowed to enter between 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. The gates were locked. The previous night's soiled plates are cleaned next morning. This was the routine I had observed for the past 15 days. Why would only one lady clean 50 to 60 plates equals bowls all by herself, that too at 3 a.m.? I was surprised but still did not doubt anything as it looked very normal. I approached the lady keeping a safe distance and asked her in Marathi, "Why are you cleaning the plates at this time, Auntie?" I did not receive any response, so I called her out again. She was still cleaning the same utensil since the time I came out of the washroom. Suddenly, she started moving back and forth while sitting in the squatting posture. Now I was feeling a bit scared, mostly due to the silence. She then started humming, which gradually increased. The entire time I was there, I could not see her face as she was sitting with her back towards me, and I didn't even dare to look at her face. Without uttering a sound, I ran straight to my room, locked it from inside, and covered every part of my body with the blanket. Next day, my roommates tried to wake me up for class at 7, but they said I was sleeping as if I was on drugs. I woke up around 10 a.m., and the first thing that crossed my mind was the old lady. Since it was morning, I dared to peep downstairs to check the washing area, but there was no trace of the soiled plates. I did not share this with anybody that day, had lunch, washed hands at the same place, and just thought of tracing evidence of my last night's experience. I approached one of the ladies who served food and asked her why the dishes were kept soiled overnight. She replied, "It becomes very late by the time everybody finishes with lunch. So we do it the next morning when others are busy preparing breakfast." By now I was pretty sure what I had encountered. Next weekend, I got an opportunity to go home and meet my parents. On Sunday after lunch, as I was sitting with my mother, I thought of telling her what I experienced the other night. I narrated her the entire incident and then, "Mom, I know you won't lie to me, but did this really happen, or are you trying to get rid of the hostel life?" Me, "I love that place, Mom. If that was the case, I would have said that directly." Mom, "Okay, but are you comfortable staying there?" Me, "Absolutely." I didn't know what did she and Dad think after that, and they both decided to withdraw my name from the hostel and make arrangement for my daily transportation from home to hostel and back. I live in the eastern part of Pune City. After few months, my mom happened to share my experience with my aunt, who has faced paranormal incidents in the past, so she took my case seriously. She immediately contacted a guy she knew who dealt with these things. He asked my mom about my birth time, location and time where the incident occurred. He revealed some shocking facts about the incident. He narrated the exact incident with small details which even I did not mention to my mom. The kind of clothes I was wearing. This wasn't the first occurrence, there were many people before me who had seen the same lady. It had something to do with my zodiac sign and the time of birth. Turns out, I was born at 3 a.m. Not sure if this is related. So even if I was accompanied by someone, the other person wouldn't have seen her. All this is very complicated for me to understand, but it never happened to me again till now.